Hi, it's Russell Todd. I want you to check out Infinite Banter. I just did a podcast with Mark, and you'll know me from Friday the 13th Part 2, Chopping Mall, He Knows You're Alone, Another World, the soap opera on NBC, and a few other things. So hope you enjoy it.
Here it is, another episode of the Infinite Banter podcast. What is going on? My name is Mark Jolliffe, also known as DJ Soundwave, or as my guy from The Walking Dead, Lou Temple, called me, DJ Boombox. So thanks for checking out the show. As you heard in that little intro there, Russell Todd, an actor and model and just all-around cool guy. He's on the show today to talk about some of the stuff he's done in the past, specifically Friday the 13th Part 2, which he plays Scott, character in that movie, and we'll talk about that and much, much more. Happy Friday the 13th. That's when I'm dropping this episode, and it's obviously a big holiday for us Jason fans. So I guess it's not really a holiday. I don't really do anything for it. I might watch one of the movies or something or do this podcast. But yeah, otherwise, I guess it's not really a holiday. It's just maybe 2 or 3 times a year we get a Friday the 13th that falls on the calendar. So I'm all about embracing it. We're going to embrace it fully here on the Infinite Banter podcast. Like I said, we got Russell Todd on here. I'm going to play a couple of clips from past guests that are Friday the 13th related. Vincent DeSanti was on the show a few months back. His fan film drops today, Friday the 13th on YouTube. You can check it out. Never Hike Alone Part 2. Definitely go check that out. I will put links in the posts of this podcast so you could see it on there. Definitely go check that out. We're going to play a clip from him talking about that movie, as well as a way back flashback. Tommy McLoughlin, who was on this show back in the first year I was doing this, he's the director of Part 6, Jason Lives. We're going to play a clip from him as well. So this is going to be a big Friday the 13th episode. So stay tuned, a lot to listen to here, but of course my man Russell Todd will be on in a little bit to talk about Friday the 13th Part 2 and much, much more. But as always, before we go forward, we go back. And before we talk to Russell Todd, let's play a clip from the last episode. And I had Ricardo Betancourt on the show. And he is the amazing photographer and artist who did the iconic cover for LL Cool J's third album, Walking with the Panther. One of my favorite albums, and the cover is just great. It's LL in the alleyway on the cobblestone with a panther with a gold chain. It's just a really cool cover. So if you've never seen it, just Google Walking with the Panther and you'll see what I'm talking about. Well, we talked to him about that cover and how he got a gold chain around a panther's neck. He talks about it here. So here we go. Flashback, Ricardo Betancourt on the Infinite Banter podcast.
He came with this gold chain, right? And who's going to put it around the neck of that panther, right? Okay. So I talked to the trainers, and they say, well, we'll try, no? And because it was a young panther, and she was a little bit restless because it was raining and it was lightning, which is 2 things they don't like.
Right.
So we let her run around the fence area, and then he attempted putting it on, and she let him do it, and she was very cool about it.
So thanks again to Ricardo Betancourt for talking about doing that cover for Walking with the Panther from the one and only James Todd Smith, LL Cool J. And speaking of Todd, so another Todd episode here. My man Russell Todd is on here to talk about Friday the 13th Part 2. Maybe I'll get another Todd on the next episode. Maybe we'll get Tony Todd, who did Candyman, or Todd Bridges from Different Strokes. How many other Todds are there? I think I'm out of Todds. There's probably another one. How could I forget one of my favorite Todds? Because I love the Beverly Hills Cop movies. How about Inspector Todd? Axel's boss. Eddie Murphy's boss. Where the fuck is Axel? Don't fuck with me, Axel. Not today. Yeah, I love Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2. I could watch, not Part 3. 1 and 2 are really good. I could watch them both. I think they're both equally great. Yeah, let's get Inspector Todd. I think the actor's passed away. I'm going to have to research this. But I think he was like a real police chief or something, and they hired him to do that, and he's just great. He's just swearing all the time at Axel. Yeah, Inspector Todd. Sweeney Todd. Okay, I think I'm out of Todds now. Sweeney Todd, that's not a person, though. That's a play. Actually, Russell talks about Sweeney Todd. All right, stay tuned. Enough of me bantering on for infinity here. See what I did there? Let's get into it. Let's talk to Russell Todd. But no, thanks again to Ricardo for coming on the show, and check out that episode if you've not heard it. Like I said, we're going to talk to Russell Todd here coming up. I've also got some clips from past guests that are Friday the 13th related. Tommy McLoughlin, the director of Jason 6, and of course, Vincent DeSanti, who now has a fan film that's about to drop called Never Hike Alone 2. Stay tuned for that. But this is the Infinite Banter Podcast. You can hear it on all platforms. Rate and review the show. Follow on social media at Infinite Banter Podcast. Check out the Spotify playlist. There's clips on YouTube from past guests. And I definitely appreciate everybody who's reposted it and tweeted it or whatever it's called now. Big thanks to everybody who's done all those things. Appreciate all the support for the podcast here. Definitely big thanks to all of you. So let's get into it. Russell Todd is here. We're going to get into some Friday the 13th Part 2, talk about Chopping Mall, talk about his time doing soap operas, and much more. But before we do anything, the show never begins until the one and only, the legend from Queens, DMC. He gets on here, he says this, and now it's official.
Yo, what's up? This is me, DMC, the K-I-N-G, the greatest MC in history. And right now, you're listening to Infinite Banter, because we will banter on forever, because this is the only place for all of y'all to ever be. I be Infinite Banter.
You're tuned into the Infinite Banter Podcast. I am Mark Jolliffe, and right now, I am pleased to be joined by an actor and model that you've seen on many TV shows and movies like Chopping Mall and He Knows You're Alone, and has appeared in numerous TV shows like Riptide, Jake and the Fat Man, soap operas like Another World. But I will always remember him as Scott from Friday the 13th Part 2. Welcome to the show, the one and only Russell Todd. How's it going, Russell?
Great, Mark. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. That was a long intro there. I had a lot of other things I wanted to put in there because you've got a lot of work that you've done over the years. For those who aren't familiar, talk about when you first got started doing acting. I see you kind of started doing film first. You were studying film, and then you kind of went into acting, right?
Yeah, I was. I was at Syracuse University in upstate New York, and I was in the film and acting program there, two separate schools, Newhouse and the School of Visual and Performing Arts. And I really never had an idea about, when I was young, being an actor. I always wanted to be a film director. And while I was in the Newhouse Communications there for filmmaking and film studies, I wrote Verna Fields, who was the editor of Jaws. She won the Academy Award for that. And I had made a movie when I was a kid, a Western, and I submitted it to the Kodak Young Filmmakers Award, and I won honorable mention. And it was a fun Western I did in my house. Uh-huh. And so I saved that, and I was also making films at the university, and I sent those to Verna Field, and she and I with a letter, of course, and it said something like, I compared myself to Steve Spielberg making movies at a young age. Why not, huh?
Yeah, and, ambitious.
It resonated with her, and she liked the films I made. So I said, would you come to Syracuse University and talk? And so she came out to Syracuse and gave a lecture, and we became friends. She went back to Universal, and she said, do you want to come out here and work at Universal for the summer? And this was like, I think my second year in college. And I said, sure. So the only job they could really give me at that point was a tour guide. So I went there. I spent the summer giving the tour at Universal Studios. But getting back to the acting, while I was on that tour, everyone would say, are you an actor? Haven't I seen you in something? And
right.
I said, no, I want to be a filmmaker. But I kept hearing from people on my tours, you should be an actor. So I went out and I got headshots made. And I found an agent who was willing to send me up on commercials. And I started booking things. And that's how it all began. So I did that summer. And then I moved to New York because a photographer at Syracuse noticed me, and he knew one of the best modeling agents in New York. His name is Zoli, and they had the greatest men in New York. And so this guy asked me if I wanted to be a model. I said, well, I want to be an actor now, and now I want to be a film director.
Everybody's telling you where to go, Russell. You got to do this. I know you're doing this, but you got to do that.
No one said you want to be an astronaut.
Right.
I might have said yes. But so he took some photographs of me at Syracuse and he sent them to Zoli. And I went down to meet Zoli and the booking staff there. And they brought me on, and they immediately sent me to Milan, Italy, to start modeling.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. So all those things were happening. And so I was thinking, what direction am I going to go in? And but the modeling was successful. So I stayed doing that for a while. But while I was doing that, pretty soon after that, I saw an ad in Backstage, the little newspaper for actors and auditions, and it was for a movie called, which you mentioned in the intro, He Knows You're Alone, which was Tom Hanks' first movie.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah. And so I auditioned for that and I got the part. And it was literally one day shooting in Staten Island, first in the backseat of a car with this girl. We're making out. And then she hears a noise outside and she says, go check on it. And I'm thinking, no, we're making out. Let's stay in the car. And she goes, no, go check on it. And I go, okay, I'll be right back. So I go out and then she hears nothing. And then she hears some sort of tap again or some noise. And she comes out and looks and it's me strung upside down with my throat cut and my high school ring or whatever is tapping on the edge of the roof of the car. And she screams, and then we see other people scream, and we realize that it's a movie
right
in the movie. So that was the first acting job I ever got.
There's a lot in there because, you're known for hanging in movies. Well, we'll get to that later. But it's like,
I think I'm typecast.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just watched that movie for the first time today, and you're right at the very beginning of it. So everybody listening, check it out. And you'll see, right off the bat, you're done. It's like, wait a minute, I've seen him do this move before. Yeah, he's. I was going to say, when you're doing the tour guide thing at Universal, there had to be some kind of acting in that too, because you're kind of playing up, what you're showing people, right? So maybe that's why people kind of saw that. You kind of had a knack for it.
It is a performance because your energy is up. Although it's it's a script, they really wanted you to stick to the script almost verbatim. But sometimes you'd have to stall because something was wrong with one of the attractions, or there was someone, one of the tour buses in front of you would be broken down. So then you could go, off the cuff. But quite often it was verbatim, but it was a performance without a doubt. Yeah.
And, you said typecast, so you brought up, He Knows You're Alone. And, it starts off, you're in a car with a pretty girl, and then go out and investigate, something happens, someone takes care of you, and you're hanging upside down. And, of course, you're known for Jason, Friday the 13th Part 2, where same kind of thing. There's a bunch of young, pretty people hanging out, and, one by one, people are missing, and Russell's hanging again. Upside down, I should say.
The motto in all those horror films is, you have sex, you die.
Right.
That's pretty much what happens to everybody in all of those films, which is really weird, but
yeah, right. It seems like it's the trope, right? If it's as long as you're wholesome or whatever, I guess you're okay. But I mean, there's probably holes in that too. I'm sure if I go back and watch every Friday 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Street, and Halloween movie, there's probably some real nice people who did nothing wrong that still got theirs at the end too.
Yes,
so
very true.
But talk about that first movie, He Knows You're Alone. You mentioned Tom Hanks. That's his first movie, and that was your first movie as well, right?
Yeah, and I always feel bad that I had a career and nothing happened to Tom.
Yeah, right. Hope he's still acting somewhere. Maybe he's still
I
trying.
hope so. Yeah. He needs some help.
But that had to be kind of a cool thing. Just like you said, you go to Milan, you're doing modeling, and things seem like they're happening. Maybe they're not fast, but it seems like as far as the timeline goes, relatively quickly compared to maybe some people who are struggling for years and years.
Right. Yeah. I've always been very lucky and blessed with things always happening and one project leading to another. And I think part of that is not just sitting back and waiting for things to happen, but in any industry, in any profession, it's important to be proactive and make an effort to, if you have an agent, don't just wait for your agent to handle everything. You try to make contacts as well and send your resume out, send your reel out. And as an actor, I thought that. And so I would go through Backstage and look for projects and submit myself. I would try to go to, I went to acting classes. I studied with Lee Strasberg for 6 months in New York, with him directly in a group class. But I would, make as many contacts as possible. And I just think that those that do the best in the industry, and not everyone, but many, have taken that extra step to promote themselves, and no matter how they do it, and try to broaden their contact sphere, and I think it's really beneficial.
Without a doubt, and it's definitely paid off for you and everybody listening. Anybody that's striving to be in movies or TV or anything, just keep networking, keep knowing people, getting to know people, and sooner or later, maybe something will happen.
Yeah.
And you're in Milan. The next thing you know, or you're hanging upside down in a horror flick. It's
Right.
like,
and look at that chance with Verna Field. I mean, I wrote her a letter out of there, and she responded. So write those letters to people you want to work with, and let them know how much you love their work. And maybe one day, a miracle will happen, or they'll pass it on to someone else. You never know.
Yeah. So be nice to people. So it sounds like let them know how much they're appreciated, how good they are at what they do. And like, oh, really? You like what I do? Well, here, come work with me.
and then if you get a restraining order against you, that's not the right.
Right. And that's the premise that he knows you're alone, I think, or something like that. So,
yeah.
So you go from that movie, we're hanging with Russell Todd literally here as we're talking about some of his roles in movies in the past, and we go to Friday the 13th Part 2. Did they say, oh, you're the hanging guy? We got a spot for you.
Well, at first I did think that. They never said that. I thought, well, they're hiring me because of that. I've done that well.
Right.
But no, it was just a total separate audition. I went on and met Steve Miner. And I forget who else was in the room at that time. And it was just one audition, and I got the part. There was nothing extensive about it. No callbacks. And soon after that, we were all in a van heading up to Kent, Connecticut, to shoot the film at this camp that is unfortunately no longer in existence. The Part 1. You can still go to that camp. In fact, they have tours.
Oh, really?
In New Jersey to go there. But we were in Connecticut, and that place I think was all torn down. The lake was drained, and it's become condos and apartments.
Oh,
too bad.
Geez. Yeah, Jason's been gentrified. He can't live there anymore.
Now he's probably lurking in those apartments, killing.
Right. It's as easy. I don't have to go outside anymore. Just knock on doors.
That's right. And now he doesn't put a mask on or a bag. He goes as a door-to-door salesman.
There you go. I was going to say, you brought up you could do tours at the site of the original Friday 13th. It sounds like there's something there. You've done tours in your past. Maybe, show up and Russell Todd's giving you a tour of the original Camp Crystal Lake. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, I was actually just there this year.
Oh, really?
Because they do hold tours multiple times during the year, and occasionally they bring in cast members from various versions, sequels. And they brought in, I think it was 4 or 5 of us from Part 2.
That's awesome.
And there were like 1,000 fans that came through, and we got a chance to meet. And some of them pay a lot to stay over at that camp for the night. I'm good. I think some people would be scared shitless to do that.
Yes,
because,
no.
But they do it, and then and they give the whole experience of seeing where everything was shot from Part 1.
No, that's. I went to the Stanley Hotel where The Shining is based off
I've been
of.
there.
So, yeah, and I went in there. I had no interest in staying there. I went there, walked around for about an hour, went to the little shop and bought a cup or whatever, and I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm not going in I'm not going upstairs or anything.
Yeah, you didn't stay around to get spooked overnight.
No. How did you like it there when you went? Did you feel that? I felt that energy. It felt like something out of a horror movie, which it is, of course, but.
Yeah, well, it's not where they shot it, right? It's where he wrote it.
Yeah, and it's based off of it. And I think Stephen King actually did another version of it, which it was based in there or shot there, but I think it was like a TV movie and didn't do well, if I'm remembering it correctly. But Dumb and Dumber was there. I know that much because they had pictures.
Oh, it was? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
on the wall there. That was, I guess it was Aspen. When they were saying they went to Aspen, that's where it was. But,
cool.
Yeah, so I don't have any interest. So that's why I don't do camping, Russell. I don't want to, I want to come home, so I don't. I see enough of these movies. I don't want to end up hanging upside down, wait for someone. Yeah.
Ever since Jaws, I mean, if I go in the ocean, I go knee deep. I never even swim in the ocean anymore.
There you go. Right, and I'm in Chicago here, so we have Lake Michigan, and we can only go so far. We're like, I don't know if I can do this. Knee deep is probably about as far as I ever went as well, and. We don't have the greatest lifeguards out here. Maybe out in California they have great lifeguards, but out here they're just like,
Were there
you're on your own.
Were there horror movies that have been based in Chicago?
Oh, Candyman and Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Also, that's the one where what's his name? Michael Rooker from Walking Dead. He's down in Lower Wacker, where they filmed some of the Batman stuff, and it's scary because I remember I used to work downtown. I used to park down there, and then I watched that movie. I'm like, all right, I'm good. I don't think I want to park down here anymore.
No more.
But yeah, Candyman's probably the big one, I guess. There's probably a few. I think Chucky was based in Chicago. I don't know if it actually was filmed here, but I think Chucky was the original one.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when you're making a horror film and you're literally, when you're not shooting and you're hanging out with the killer, like in this case Jason, and you're talking and everything, and that it's this is not real. You're just shooting a movie. But at night, and I've told the story before, but we would walk home from the lodge to our cabins we were staying in, which was maybe a 20-minute walk or 15-minute walk from the lodge. But it was this just dirt road with really tall pine trees on both sides. And the moon, beautiful moon up above. And you'd walk by, you'd be released one by one. So quite often I'd be walking on that road by myself. And invariably, there would be another cast member or a crew member in the trees going, kill, 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 kill.
Oh my God.
To scare the shit out of you. And it did.
Yeah.
And you know that you just shot the scene with Jason down the road there, and it's not real, but you still get spooked.
Well, not only that, this is only the second one. It's not like it's part of the lexicon or something where everybody's like familiar with this. Yeah.
It was just beginning.
Yeah, that's crazy. Were you guys conscious of that? Because obviously this is the second one, but in a way it's the first real Jason movie. And were you guys kind of feeling that? Yeah.
We weren't cognizant of anything except we were young, a bunch of young people being hired to do a sequel to a movie we all appreciated. I mean, I saw the first one, and like everyone else, I was scared and I enjoyed it. So having the opportunity to come back to do a sequel was really cool. So I loved that when I got booked for this movie. But you have no idea when you're shooting something, first of all, if it's going to be released. You never know. And then enjoyed, respected, reviewed well, whatever, and and it is what it is. And if it will have legs, and in this case, it had quite the legs.
They made how many of them, right? And 30 years later, 40 years later, we're still talking about all these movies. And
I know it's just phenomenal and amazing. And all of us I know in part two, and I'm sure in all of them are very appreciative of the fans and how they've kind of really just embraced this franchise for all these years. And it's not just the ones that have been around since it came out, but there's so many new people every year, that are getting into horror because it's such a big thing still. And so generation after generation after generation are seeing these movies, are seeing, my film there. And it's wonderful. It will go on in perpetuity. And who knows if there'll be more of them.
Yeah, there's chances of, I keep hearing there's going to be possibly something, and I know Vicente DeSanti from Womp Stomp Films, I had him on here a few months back. He has a fan film coming out, Never Hike Alone, too, and it's got Tom Matthews from Part 6 and some of the characters from that, and so yeah, that's it. There's still a lot being made, but as far as like a big feature film, that's still on the
rights are in some sort of legal issue right now. So I think that's what's stopping another, because there was one that was supposed to be made, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago maybe, and that stopped. So there's a battle over the rights, but they're making a TV series right now about it. Well, as soon as the strike's over.
Right. Like a prequel, right? Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is a prequel. Yep.
Yeah, that should be interesting, and to see how I guess it'll be a young Ms. Voorhees and possibly the father. We don't really hear much about him. He seems like he's a bad guy. He doesn't show up for anything. So maybe they'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Or a young Scott, when he first got the slingshot or whatever. We first see you. I don't know.
I wrote Brian Fuller, the producer, and I said, you should bring Scott back.
Yeah, right. That'd be pretty cool. Or you could play Scott's dad, dropping off a younger Scott now.
Well, it's funny you say that, because that's a great plot for Another Friday, where we play our parents and we come back.
Yeah.
And we look like ourselves, and we come back for closure, to a camp to find out, what went on, and then of course we get picked off one by one.
Right. Watch out for this kid, Scott. He might watch you while you're swimming in the lake. Be careful. Right. He might take your clothes from you. Back to that scene where you're hanging upside down. Were you doing that the whole time? Was that also a stunt person doing some of that? Because that first swing is like really violent when you first get in there.
The actual swing is a stunt person who goes into the trap and flies upside down. Yes, but then it cuts to me in the close-up, of course, and then it's me for the rest of the scene. And when we did the actual, Jason slitting my throat, I was up there for a while. I think it was 30 minutes or something, 30, 40 minutes.
That must have felt like a long time.
Well, what they did is they had a couple of guys that were holding my shoulders up, so my wasn't fully inverted. And so the blood wasn't rushing in my head. And at that point, they were just fine-tuning a little touch-up on the prosthetic I had on my neck, which was pre-cut. So the machete didn't even have to cut it open, thank God. But it was preset. And then there was a guy up in a tree above me with a big tank full of blood, fake blood, to pump it down a hose, which was running through my leg, up my shirt, and then, of course, to my neck. And they said, look, Russell, we need to get this in one take, because there's a lot of blood, and it's going to, be tough to redo it. So that made me a little nervous, but, we got it in one take, which was great, just reacted to what was happening. And it cuts a lot sooner than they would have liked, but the
Right.
the censors were really strict on this one for some reason, on all the death scenes, cutting them really quickly. And although you see more in that box set, with all the Fridays, there's commentary in that,
Right.
and you see the blood flow longer and fuller. And I think eventually it went into my eyes, and we had it totally cut. But
Wow.
you see more in that box set.
That's crazy. Like you're saying, you got to do it in one take, and oh, by the way, you're upside down, and all that stuff. It's like you got to get it right the first time. That's a lot to put on you, but
No
you
pressure.
did it. Yeah, right.
Pressure.
No pressure at all. And I was watching the Crystal Lakes documentary. They talk about every movie, and you were talking in there about that scene. And I guess people have always brought up the machete was reversed or something. I didn't really catch that the first time I saw that movie, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I always thought it was too, and that became the lore. For years and years, people have been saying that. And then a book just came out that Ron Gann did, and I believe it's called Packanack Lodge. And he mentions that that's the type of machete it is, where it looks like it's the dull side, but is
Okay.
yeah, it's the machete itself, and it wasn't an inaccuracy, or it wasn't improperly handled. It was it was just the way the machete looked.
See, all the machete experts are probably saying, "Yeah, don't you guys know that? You fanboys, come on." Yeah. It's important. When they're making these movies and such, they've got to try to find a way to make it as plausible and as accurate as possible. I'm sure there's sometimes things slip through the cracks, but that one was a big one, and obviously it's right. So
Yeah, but it's funny how people attach onto these things, and it becomes folklore.
Right.
And see with this franchise, but now it's resolved.
Yes, right. So they can leave you alone at the convention. Stop asking Russell about the machete. I'm sure you get that all the time, and maybe you still will after
People
this.
do ask at the convention. They ask about that, of course, because it's been in so much press over the years.
How are the conventions? I mean, I know COVID kept some of them away for a couple of years, but are you back at doing them? And how have you liked doing interactions with fans and such, and all these years of probably running into castmates that you did work with, and maybe some from other movies?
Yeah, I am back doing them. Where was the last one I did? Well, I did one in Los Angeles recently. I'm trying to do what is it called, Chiller in New Jersey. I'm not sure what date that is, but I'm hopefully that's going to be set up. But I really enjoy them.
Yeah.
They're a great way to meet the fans who come, and they come with such enthusiasm, and some buy. We have our photos we're selling in front of us, and sometimes they buy the ones we have. But many of them bring their own photos that they've acquired, and sometimes it's books that have been put out. So all sorts of things: posters, hockey masks, clothing. Anything you can think of, they want you to sign, and they have so much information. They know more about the franchise than we do. We're talking about Friday the 13th.
Right.
They ask you questions or they tell us facts, and it's fascinating because for us as the actor, we go in and we do our lines, we do our stuff, and we're on to the next project. But these things really stay with them, which is wonderful, and they've made this franchise what it is today, and it's a great experience. Like I said, just to have a chance to talk with them, and they're all very sweet people. And enthusiastic. And another part of the conventions is I love running into my castmates. And usually at a horror convention, so it's usually Friday the 13th, people. And we get a chance to reminisce. And, people like, I see John Fury because he lives 10 minutes away. So that's nice. And on conventions, a lot of times it's Stu Charno, Warrington Gillette. Not Stu Charno. I haven't seen Stu in years, but we did the convention before. But John Fury, Warrington Gillette, Amy Steele, who else is there? Oh my God, now I'm blanking.
I would imagine Kane Hodder's at a bunch of these, right? Because I've seen him at some conventions out here.
Yes, yeah. And then I see Cully Maroney occasionally, who I did Chopping Mall with, Tony O'Dell, sometimes at Chopping Mall. It's great because it's like a family reunion.
And if you ever make it out to one of these Chicago ones, I know they do Days of the Dead out here and some other cons.
Yeah, I've done Days of the Dead. I think it was either last year or the year before.
Oh, okay. See?
I
need to get out the house.
What's that?
I need to get out the house and go back to conventions and run into Russell Todd at one of these.
Well, usually, they you can click on all these conventions, and of course, they tell you who's coming.
Right.
Oh, Lauren Marie Teller. That's what I'm thinking about. She's always
okay.
And Bill Randolph.
There you go.
Sometimes Kirsten, who I played opposite, sometimes she's at some of these too.
Oh, that's got to be cool because you guys obviously have some memorable scenes in Friday the 13th Part 2. Talk about the chemistry between you guys working with the the slingshot scene and the dog and everything.
Oh yeah, no, it was great. I mean, especially, I mean, the scene where where she's skinny dipping. They had a closed set, of course, because she was going to be naked. But we had a great relationship. We kidded around a lot, so she was very comfortable with me, and vice versa. And we laughed a lot, as I did with most of the cast members. When you're not, there's a relaxation when you. Steve Miner was a terrific director, and he made us feel very relaxed on the set. But there's something about you're working with them, so you feel comfortable with them. But then when you're off the set, you're even more comfortable because you have this thing in common that you're making a movie or a TV show together. So when you're off the set, it's just kind of a terrific bond with these people, and you get to know them because no one really knew each other before. So we'd go to the local pub or something and have a drink, or just sit around the campfire, not in a scene, or just sit around the lodge and talk and learn about each other's lives. So all of us were comfortable, and Kristen and I were very comfortable, and just it was a lot of fun working with her and everyone else. And Muffin, although
Right.
a dog will always upstage you.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's fine. But Muffin stole the show.
She sure did. Even at the end of the movie, she comes back and
She does, yeah. She had a better agent than I did.
there you go. I don't know about this Russell guy, but Muffin, we've got some more work for you here later on in the movie. There was kind of a fake out at the beginning too, because they showed your hand before the slingshot. It's kind of like making you think maybe that's Jason, And that was kind of cool. I caught that today when I watched the movie again.
Yeah, but it's funny for me when I watch, I say, "Oh, I recognize my hand. That is my hand."
It's not as hairy knuckled as Jason's will end up being or whatever.
Jason has more arthritis.
There it is. Right, he can't do a whole fist.
Right.
And he doesn't use a slingshot for sure. He's a little more upfront and personal when he tries to get your attention.
Sometimes in some of the conventions, the couple that organizes and bringing us in, we do photo opportunities for people outside of just coming to the table and buying a photo. And sometimes they get a slingshot, and we do a slingshot photo.
How cool is that?
And that's popular.
That's awesome. See?
Yeah.
The little thing like that. I mean, I'm sure in the moment when you're doing it, it's just like a small thing. And who would have thought, 30 something years later that you guys would, have that as a prop to still have fun with. That's pretty cool.
I know. You just don't know. Like I said, you do the project and you move on, and you just never know what kind of life it'll have. And this is just incredible.
Yeah, it still resonates with people so many years later. And I'm sure you still every day when, even me asking you to come on and do this, to talk about it, it's got to be pretty cool over the years. I think, well, yeah, people are still asking about this movie I did X amount of years ago, and you've done so many things since then, right? But it's still, that's the thing people tend to ask you about.
I think the most popular is Friday the 13th. I think it's not necessarily the most visible, because the soap opera I did was very visible.
Yeah.
And Chopping Mall, that movie, and some other things I had done. But there's something about horror that captivates people, and that's why those conventions are mobbed. And people stop me. I was at the gym the other day, and I was on the treadmill or on an elliptical bike, and someone looked over at me and goes, "Are you Russell Todd?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I love Friday the 13th, my favorite movie." You never know where you're going to be, and it's really nice.
Yeah, and that's regarded, I'll even say myself, Friday the 13th Part 2 might be considered the best one of the whole franchise. I mean, it's the first one with Jason. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't say myself because I think I've only seen 3 of them, but don't tell anyone.
No. Uh-oh. I'll delete that part.
I've got the whole box set, which I have to sit down and watch sometime. It's unopened.
Right.
But
apparently it's unopened. Well, that's all right. I mean, hey, it's different for fans than it is for people who are actually working on something. You do your thing, and you're already moving on to your next project by the time the movie maybe comes out, and who knows how many times you're actually sitting down and watching it, right? Unless you have like family members. Do family members come back to you like, "I can't believe you're doing all these horror movies," or was your mom like, "What are you doing?" Was she ever like that to you when you're doing these things?
Well, no, but I don't know if you heard the story before, but I'll tell it again. When I was filming Friday the 13th Part 2, usually you do things out of sequence, but for some reason, everything I did in that movie was in sequence, including my death, which was my last day of shooting.
Oh, okay.
It's a night shoot. And so I call up my parents, and I said, "That's my last day in Connecticut. I'm heading back to New York tomorrow." And they said, "What are you shooting?" I said, "Well, it's my death scene." They said, "Russell." I said, "What?" They said, "Are you sure this isn't a snuff movie?" Why would they save your death for the last scene? I said,
That's crazy. No, I've
I
never
know.
heard that story. That's
It
awesome.
never occurred to me that that was even a possibility, and it wasn't. I said, Mom, Dad, it's a Paramount movie. It's a sequel to a big movie, and it's not a snuff movie. It's real, and it's just the way the scenes fell. But so that was her take on horror, and
Right.
son being killed. And then when she went to see it, she had to turn away. She didn't enjoy watching me be killed.
Right. Why are you hanging again, Russell? How many times are they going to make you do this?
Didn't I teach you better?
Right. We said they hang out in Hollywood. We didn't know you're literally going to be doing that. So, I kid you not. That is one of my favorite scenes in all the Friday the 13th movies. I mean, the sleeping
great.
bag kill is what most people like, and that is definitely one of my favorites. But yeah, the Scott hanging upside down is because she goes back to look for a pocket knife, and it feels like she's just having the hardest time looking for this thing. I mean, bags are falling on her in the closet, and there's like this feeling that Jason's going to walk into that room or whatever, and you're still hanging there like, all right,
Right. Come on. Well, doesn't everyone carry a pocket knife when they're camping?
You would think so. Although you took all her clothes from her, so theoretically
That's true.
it could have.
It was probably in those.
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of on you a little bit. I don't know.
Now you're making me feel guilty, Mark.
No, it's all right, man. But no, that movie's iconic, and it's before the hockey mask and everything. So everybody listening, if you have not seen Friday the 13th Part 2, definitely go and check it out and see Russell in it. It's definitely a memorable couple scenes you have there with the dog, like I said, the dance scene and the hanging upside down. It's definitely, I'm sure people have photos of you hanging upside down. Have you signed it all the time? It's crazy.
Yeah, I've signed that photo a lot. When they come to the table and they choose photos, number one is probably upside down, and number two is holding muffin.
There you go.
Yep.
See? It's a muff film, not a snuff film. That's what you got to tell people.
Well done. Well done.
There you go. Once in a while. But speaking of Friday the 13th, so I grew up watching Days of Our Lives, and two actresses from Days of Our Lives ended up on Friday the 13th. Renee Jones was in Part 6. She was on Days of Our Lives, and so was Stacey Greason. She was in Part 7, I believe. And you went on to do Another World. I don't know if you did any Days of Our Lives episodes, but I used to watch Days of Our Lives for a bit in the 90s, and Another World would come on after on NBC.
Yeah.
So I would leave it on once in a while. Talk about doing soaps. I mean, that's pretty cool. There's actors from all over the place that end up on soap operas.
Yeah, it was something I never expected I would be doing. I mean, I had done in Los Angeles some day playing on soaps and some under fives and some little things. But when I got the call to play to be the 10th Dr. Jamie Frame,
Right.
30 years that he was a character on Another World. And they shot in Brooklyn, New York. I was living in Los Angeles. So it meant I had to move to New York and stay there for those 3 years. And I thought, this will be interesting. So I went. I did the audition. My girlfriend and wife on the show was Anne Heche, who unfortunately, recently passed away.
Right.
Yeah, but that's who I did the audition with and who I was going to be playing against most of my time there. And I got the part. And so I had to, move and relocate to New York. And we shot in Brooklyn. So every day, it was really cool, the fact that we didn't have to worry about getting ourselves out there at 7 a.m. They would pick us up, drive us out there, and drive us back home every day for those that lived in the city. So that made the experience easier. But it's, doing a soap opera is a factory because you're working 50 weeks a year. You have 2 weeks off.
Right.
And want those 2 weeks off, you have to go into the writer's room or to the producer's room and say, I'd like to get a vacation, and let's say it's January. You tell them you need it in April or June or May or something, because you have to give them so many months for them to write it into the story. Like, where's Dr. Jamie Frame? What happened to him?
He's dead. We killed him off again.
He's off at the doctor's convention.
Oh, I got you, right.
Something. So you got to give him enough time. But you're only getting 2 weeks off. And depending on your storyline at any given time, you may be doing 5 shows a week or 2 shows a week, 3 shows. It varies. And sometimes you would work just the morning or come in just for the afternoon, or sometimes you'd work the morning and get out at 11 o'clock that evening because it was an insane show. So every day was different schedule. Of course, every day's a whole different show. And a lot of work, memorizing. I never memorized as much as that show. Being a doctor, I had a lot of things
a lot of medical jargon and all that you had to learn.
Jargon, yeah. And they had a medical specialist on hand when I was doing surgery on the show, or we were in the hospital sometimes, and we had to say a lot of jargon, like you said. But you learned, when I first came on that show, I had never been on a soap for 3 years, and I never had to memorize that much dialogue. So I would take it with me everywhere I went, even when I was sitting in the bathroom or just waking up. And the best time to memorize is when you go to bed. So I was doing it before sleep, but I would carry it with me. And if I was on the subway or I was in a store shopping, I'd be holding it and looking at it occasionally. And after the first, I would say maybe 4 to 6 months, it started bouncing off the page, and something happens in your brain, like a muscle, where it suddenly realizes how to do it and to do it quickly. So that got easier and easier, and soon I would look at a script and just know it right away. And so that made work a lot better, because you, like I said, it's a factory. It's just memorize, shoot. It just doesn't stop except for those 2 weeks.
And that's a whole different fan base too. You talk about the Friday fan base as one group, and you've probably got a whole different set of fans, Another World and TV fans that you have.
And they're just as devoted. With a soap opera, you're in their house, 5 days a week, and they feel they truly know you, not as just the character, but they know you as the actor. And they treat you like family, and it's very different than did they go maybe they went to the movie, maybe they didn't, but now I'm in your house 5 days a week. And so they're also very, very committed and devoted. And in fact, there's a convention. I just made me think. Is it the 40th year? I think it's 40 years since Another World came on. And in May of next year, wow, we're doing a convention. I don't know what actors are coming, but I'm scheduled to appear in May in Tarrytown, New York. There's going to be a convention. So if anyone's interested in seeing that, I'm sure it's available to check it out on the internet.
Yeah. Well, that'd be pretty cool. And you make a good point about soap operas, because, obviously I didn't watch them as watch Friday 13th and I'm going to go watch Days of Our Lives. It wasn't like that. But, my mom would have them on. It's like a generational thing. So just be on in the house, and you come home from school and it's like, oh, what are you watching? Soap operas. Who's John Black? What are you watching right now? What is this? Days of Our Lives. What's this Another World thing? And you kind of just stay in the room and it's on. And then, the next generation's also seen it. Because like I said, it's on for 40 years. You just have a fan base that just grows and grows. And it just, like I said, it's generational.
Yeah, and what you said is very true. I can't tell you how many fans that would stop me from Another World that would say I would watch it with my mom or my grandmom, and that's always seems to be
100%.
the case. Yeah, so that's funny you said that.
Well, I was in charge of the VCR back then, so I would have to program it. I'm not even to record Days of Our Lives and Another World, and
Some of the people listening, Mark, probably don't even know what a VCR is.
Yeah, okay. So there were these machines back then where you put in I don't even want to explain it. Just Google VCR. And once in a while, I would screw it up. Like, I missed it. And Friday's the biggest day, and I can wait till Monday. It's like, well,
sorry. The good news about a soap opera is when you miss one episode, you've missed about 2 hours of the whole story, rather than. Yeah, because a week later is really no time whatsoever in a soap opera.
Right, and the kids, at least on days, the kids will grow up really fast. Someone have a baby, they go upstairs, they come down, they're 18. Like, whoa, what happened?
Right.
But the parents are always like 32, always.
That reminds me, there was a show called Capital. It was a CBS show. We shot it at CBS Television City. And the actor in real life, and I can't remember his name, but he went through his windshield, and he survived, but his face was scarred terribly. And they didn't know if he was coming back or not, so they called me in to play the character. And I played him, and then, I don't know, 3 months into it or something, I guess he was doing well, and he wanted to come back to the role. And I don't know if he was going to have further surgeries or not, but they wanted him to come back. So I had to exit the show. So how do I exit the show? They put me in a car, and I know it's my last day, and my car's going to go over a cliff, and they're going to go. You're going to see these lights. They flash across your face as they're shooting it, like other car lights coming at me, and then the camera zooms in, and I'm like in a horror face of going over a cliff, and that'll be the last time you ever see Russell. And the next time when they recover the car and the body, it's going to be his face again. Did you see him again?
Oh, that's crazy.
So, yeah, and I remember saying the last day, I said, I'm not getting in that car.
Yeah, right?
Have to. I said, no, if I get in that car, I'm not coming out. And out came him. I think my character was Geordie Clegg. I can't remember the guy that played it originally and came back to play it.
So they didn't want you hanging upside down in this one. They didn't. We've seen some of your work. And
no.
Right. But I grew up on watching soap operas and such, and it, like you said, it's a different fan base, but they're very devoted, just like Friday 13th fans are. And you brought up Anne Heche, and obviously, really, really sad to hear, that she'd passed last year and everything. Talk about working with her. I mean, that was early in her career as well.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I thought she had, because when I came onto that show, I really didn't know much about it or her brilliance on it. But it was early for her. She was very young. And for some reason, Anne had this maturity about her. I always thought she was much older than she was, just based on that, her intelligence and maturity. But she welcomed me wonderfully and was always very supportive. And, working with Anne is like a master class in acting. She was just so great to watch her. She was a chameleon. She could be and do anything. And many people have talked about that regarding her talent. And when I came on, I think, because I had a 3-year contract, when I came on, she only had a year left. So, we did all of our stuff and then she left. And then Caitlin Hopkins came and Jensen Buchanan. Jensen replaced her, and then Caitlin Hopkins came on, who was my love interest after that. But working with Annie was great. You never knew what to expect. There was one scene where she gets mad at me. I don't know what we were talking about. We were in her apartment on the show, and she's supposed to slap me across my face. But perhaps she reached too far, or perhaps I was leaning too far in, and she caught my ear. And I'm telling you, I lost hearing for the entire rest of the day. All I could hear was a high-pitched rip.
Wow.
And I didn't know if I could even continue doing the scenes. So I don't even remember if we did continue, or I had to stop working that day because I couldn't hear anything. So accidents happen, of course.
Yikes! Did it end up coming back to you maybe the next day, or was it a few hours later? How did that transpire?
Later that evening, the noise started to fade. But Annie was very apologetic and felt bad about that, of course. But when I first came on the show, they immediately to shoot a few episodes. Is that your phone?
Oh, my daughter's phone. Well, let me.
Okay.
It should go off in a second. It's probably a scammer call. She's only 4, but she has a phone, Russell.
Uh-oh.
Well, I gave her my old iPhone. When I updated mine, they're like, "Oh, if you have a third phone, it only costs this much." And I'm like, "Here you go. You have a phone now." You're 4.
Does she have a Facebook page at 4?
No, none of that stuff. It's really just so she can watch YouTube Kids. So she doesn't use my phone. So I can watch, Russell hanging upside down and, clips on YouTube, get interrupted.
When you're bored.
Yes, right. And in your character on Another World, you didn't have a death scene or anything because I kept just recasting, right, the doctor. So
yeah, I was the last guy to play Jamie.
Oh, you were? Okay.
When at the end of my contract, they sent Jamie to a medical convention in Paris. So that's where he is today.
He's practicing in Paris.
I'm hoping that because he was such a goody two-shoes, I'm hoping he drank himself under the table with great French wines and gorged on cheeses and croissants and started going to the brothels and just had a crazy wild time.
See,
just because that's not who he was on the show.
Right. He totally flipped it. Now that I'm out of this life here and taking care of all these people here, I'm going to go to Paris and I'm going to completely go bonkers and go nuts and live it up.
Exactly.
Eating croissants. That's definitely the definition of living it up. That's for sure. It's so crazy to think about, soap operas and horror movies. What are some of the genres you grew up watching? I mean, were you a fan of, obviously you wanted to be a filmmaker. Was there a genre you wanted to do as far as making films and such?
Oh, well, I don't know at first if it was a genre as much as just certain films that really affected me. Like, I think the reason I fell in love with film was because of Charlie Chaplin.
Right.
As a kid, I had some of his Super 8 movies, and I would set up the projector in the den, and we had bought a screen we put at the other end, and I was just mesmerized by him, even though, of course, it was all silent. I just thought it was magical, like most people do when they go into a dark theater and the movie larger than life is appearing in front of them. It is magical, even if the movie's not great. You come away saying, "Oh, I didn't even like that movie." There's something about being in a theater, which I think is much more impactful than sitting home and watching a movie. Also, the size of the screen, of course. but he affected me. Charlie was one of my first heroes, and one of the reasons I wanted to get into the business. And he inspired me to make that first Western. I think I mentioned that got me
Oh, right. Yeah.
that entered into the Kodak Young Filmmakers Awards. But then when certain movies came out, like when I was young, like the first Planet of the Apes, remember that series?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that those were actors in those
Right.
masks. And then I knew nothing about prosthetics, special effects. So to me, I didn't know how it was achieved. And of course, then I learned, and I just was mesmerized by those. When those came to town, every time there was a new one, I was always there at that downtown Troy's Proctor's Theater to see it open. And I was just flabbergasted by the special effects in those. And then, of course, they've shot some of them in Los Angeles, which is cool, right here in Century City, or at least one of them they shot in Century City. But so those movies affected me. The Mission Impossible I thought were real clever. Right. So I loved kind of intrigue of the Mission Impossible movies and horror. Like I said, The Exorcist later on was, iconic to me and to many people. What else? I loved movies that took me places, to different countries, to different places in the world. Citizen Kane, of course, studying film later on. I mean, and all the things that Orson Welles did first in his movies that started trends. There were many, many things that inspired me to be in this business. And my mom and dad exposed me to the arts early on, because my mom was a singer in a trio when she was younger, and that's how she met my dad, in a trio called the Darlin Sisters.
Oh, wow.
Upstate New York. And my dad met her at a club one night singing, and they fell in love.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great story. But they would bring us Albany, New York. Troy, New York was 2.5 hours from New York City. So as a kid, I remember being brought to New York to see Sweeney Todd when it first opened with Angela Lansbury and Len Carew.
Oh, wow. That's cool, man.
Pippin, with the original Pippin with Ben Vereen, Hair, all sorts of musicals. And we had Tanglewood near us, Saratoga Performing Arts Center. What was that place called? Another one nearby, I can't think of the name. But so everything was in reach, and they loved the orchestra and the theater, and so they exposed. I have two brothers. They exposed all of us to it. So that obviously had a great impact on my life.
That is something. Did your mom's group, did they record? Did they have like studio albums or anything like that you could play to this day? Yeah.
No, they were well known in the New York area. Kind of in the Tri-City area, Albany, Schenectady, and Troy, and in New York too, and in Tarrytown where my dad was from. But they never got to the recording level. But I have a fantastic picture, which I treasure, of my mom and the other two girls laying on a bare rug with their arms like folded underneath their heads. Very classic,
cool.
Black and white photo, and it's it has their name on the Darlin Sisters, and the other side has for publicity and for bookings, contact so and so, which was their agent. So that's a great shot. It's a great memory.
That's how you did promo back then, right? Before Instagram, that's how you had to do it. You put a number on a picture, and that's how you let people know who you are and how to get in contact. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
It
worked.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Man, Russell, it's been an honor talking to you, man. And I see that you went on to do other things beyond, just making films and TV and such. Talk about what you're doing now and where you've gone since doing, Another World and everything.
Well, thank you. For the last 23 years, I've had an agency representing Steadicam operators, those guys that move through shots, very fluid, and you don't see any motion. And the public has seen the Steadicam operators work in almost everything they watch. It's just whenever there's a long walk and talk through a hallway or something, or someone's running and the camera's following them and you don't see any motion. I mean, it's used in every film, not every, but most films, TV commercials, music videos, documentaries. So I was doing a commercial. I was auditioning for a commercial in LA, and I had run into a friend of mine who said he was working at an agency, and he said they're looking for someone to work in the TV department to be the assistant to the head agent. I said, oh, an assistant? I don't know if I want to do that. I had just come off Another World, but I said I'll meet them, and I met them, and I thought the woman that owned the agency was really dynamic and cool, and I said, I'll do this. Although the agent who I was going to be working for didn't want me at all. She just wanted, she was a one-woman operation, and I was kind of being forced on her. But I got hired. I did the job, and literally the second week I was there, I was working at the front desk just answering phones, and a guy walks in and says, "Do you represent Steadicam operators?" And I'm thinking, I got to research this. And I said, no, let me get back to you. And I found out that no one in the world represented them. So I thought, I should start a division or figure out how to do this here at this agency. And I found 10 Steadicam operators that wanted to be rep. That's all I had reached out to. I just figured it'd be a start. And that grew into a very profitable division at the agency. And about a year and a half later, I thought, well, if it's working here, it might work on my own. So I left with those clients and opened up the Russell Todd agency. And it became about 50 or 60 Steadicam operators for all these years.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and we've done, most of the major movies, TV shows, commercials that the public has seen. And it was wonderful. I loved the negotiating every day and the clients and to have 60 clients, there's so many personalities there. So every time you pick up the phone, it was always, dealing with someone else, which was, and their life. So I did enjoy that. I do enjoy that. And talking to the studios and making the deals. So very different than acting, but still in the industry. Right. But what's great, I go to see a movie and, you see 4 or 5 previews before, and it's a great thrill to look up the screen. Oh, we did that movie. Oh, we did that movie. We did that movie too. So it's been great. It's been great.
And you're coming at it with a perspective of somebody who's worked in Hollywood and movies and TV for a long time. So you definitely know the business and have a different perspective as opposed to someone who's just in it for making money, right? And signing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, being an agent, I never was an agent prior, but I had an agent and I knew how the process worked. So being an agent wasn't that far of a stretch for me. And it's really an enjoyable job. You're arguing about money all day, but you're not yelling, you're not fighting. It's
right.
It's negotiating. Show me the money.
There you go. Yeah, Jerry Maguire moment. Who's coming with me? I'm going to start an agency. Who's coming with me? And we've heard definitely, in the news just very recently, the strike and everything. So it's all out there, and I've learned more about how that all works than I've ever even considered thinking about how it works. So pretty crazy.
Yeah. Hopefully, the writers settled, and hopefully the actors are going to settle soon, and we can all get back to business.
That would be great. So you don't have to do podcasts anymore, Russell. You can go back to doing real work. Just kidding.
I'll still be doing it, Mark.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure you could probably get asked a lot to do stuff like this. I mean, it's probably just as fun as when you're at the conventions to, I could pick up the phone for a few minutes and talk about, movies and stuff. So I'm sure you get a kick out of it, obviously.
Oh, it's great. I get to meet new people like yourself. I get to promote things I'm doing. I mean, I want to, for everyone out there that wants to connect with on Instagram, it's Russell Todd LA. That's my Instagram. I'm not sure which conventions I'm booked to do at this point, but there will be them. And then I'll put that out on my Instagram. Another thing is someone had tried to buy the rights to Chopping Mall. It didn't happen because they wanted to serialize it into books, but they did find another project that's already been made, and they're going to serialize that. And they're using my image. They're using me. It'll be me playing the main character, but it'll be my character. There's no acting involved. It's just books, but I get to do that. And once this movie comes out serialized, I'll probably travel around, they said, and kind of promote it since I'm the main character in it. And so that'll be cool. I've never done that before.
There you go. And I've yet to see that movie. I was trying to find it on streaming and I couldn't find it.
Chopping Mall?
Yeah.
Oh, you got to see that. That's a cult classic.
Yeah. And it sounds like a total 80s movie.
Right now,
yeah.
It's streaming on Peacock.
Yeah. Oh, it is on Peacock. Okay,
yeah,
I didn't see it there.
It's either just about to come or it is already on Peacock, but they've got some rights to show it now.
All right, that's it. I'm telling the wife I'm going to be watching Chopping Mall tonight, either by myself or I don't know, probably by myself. I usually watch these things alone, so I'm going to watch Chopping Mall.
Enjoy.
That's great. I mean, it sounds like just what it is. I'm sure it's just an awesome slasher flick, and you've done a few of those, so right up your alley.
It's a hoot. I mean, it was quite a thing. We shot at Sherman Oaks Galleria, and a place I used to go all the time. And, to spend every night when it would close down to the morning for 4 weeks, blowing it up and shooting at these robots that were killing us, trying to kill us. And it's a bit kitschy, a bit, obviously, it's the first time they really did robots, I believe, that were security guards in a mall that have gone haywire and tried to kill the kids that are partying. Once again, we're kids partying and having sex in a furniture store. And of course, they have to pay the price by being killed by these robots.
Well, yeah, You can't do that on those couches. They're trying to sell them. So.
and then sell those couches.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, Aronson. I'm trying to think of like the brands of furniture stores back in the 80s.
Lane or whatever.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Do you have any websites you want to promote or anything? I know that you said you can find you on Instagram, and where else people can find you. Do Facebook or any of that kind of stuff? Or
Not really. I mean, I do Facebook. That's more personal stuff, not work I'm doing. Really, just the Instagram. Russell Todd.
there you
LA.
go.
Yeah.
And be on the lookout for maybe a convention near you where Russell might be showing up. And like I said, if you come out to a Chicago con, I will definitely find a way to get out there. I know you said you were there last year, but the next ones you do, I'll try to get to those. That's pretty cool, man. That you're back in the convention game, and after COVID now, that's all coming back. So
Yeah, they're really strong again. They really are.
really great talking to you, Russell. I got Friday 13th Part 2, one of my favorite of the series. It might be my favorite. I've always had a hard time distinguishing which one's my favorite, but that one's great. And as I said, your scene is one of the most memorable ones. Unfortunately, you didn't live past, but it's okay. It's memorable. We're talking about it in 2023. So, really appreciate it.
I'm so glad you asked me to be on your show, Mark. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure talking with you. And thanks so much for watching Chopping Mall tonight and for being a fan of the franchise.
Oh, you got it. Yeah. It's
Right,
Russell Todd. You just make sure you check him out and all of his movies and TV shows and soap operas and such. And again, Friday 13th Part 2 and He Knows You're Alone. It's another good one. Everybody out there, go check out those flicks and follow him on Instagram and see when he's doing something you could check out. And I really appreciate you spending time with us, Russell, and coming on the podcast here.
I do too, Mark. Thank you so much.
Really cool talking with Russell Todd there. I mean, I was just really geeked that he was willing to do this, and the fact that the timing worked out where it's around Friday the 13th, I mean, it was just perfect timing. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything more. So big shout out to Russell Todd. And since I recorded that interview, I checked out 2 of the movies that we talked about on there. So Chopping Mall, we talked about at the end of the podcast there. It is on Peacock, like he said. It's also on Tubi and I believe on Pluto TV. I watched it on the Tubi app. Tubi is free. I've watched a lot of movies on there, so I definitely recommend everybody go check out Chopping Mall. It's kind of like if you took RoboCop or Johnny Five from Short Circuits and then combine that with Dawn of the Dead, and then the zombies are in the mall. But if you take out the zombies and it's just a bunch of young teenagers in a mall, and then robot security guard said, that's enough. You guys aren't doing those things that you want to do in the mall, and we're taking you out. So it's a pretty cool movie. It's really quick, but it's a lot of fun, and definitely a flashback to the 80s, and malls were the big thing. There's hardly any malls around. I'm by Woodfield Mall. That's still a big one. Other than like that one and maybe the one in Minnesota, I don't know if malls are really going to last much longer. But Chopping Mall, definitely check it out. It's on the Tubi app. Definitely recommend that one. And He Knows You're Alone. You could find it on YouTube. I watched it on there. And it's great. It's Tom Hanks' first movie, and Russell Todd's first movie as well. And Russell Todd's in it very early, as you talked about in the interview there. So definitely go check that one out as well. Kind of has like a Halloween vibe. There's a guy kind of stalking people, taking them out one by one. The only difference is you see him the whole time. Like there's no hiding in a mask, or he's just a crazy jerk. So definitely check that one out. There's a couple cool kill scenes in it. Definitely recommend that. The thing I thought was funny about that movie was that there's the one girl who feels like she's been stalked and there's some guy trying to kill her throughout the whole movie. What she does in part of the movie is that she decides that she wants to go out jogging in the forest when there's a guy out there looking for her. I don't know about you, but first of all, I don't like doing running. But if I thought somebody was trying to kill me, I think the last thing I would do is like, I'm going to go for a run in the forest by myself. Get the hell out of here. It's crazy. Just nuts. I love horror flicks because they take things that are just, they twist them for you and it's like, I don't think I would have done that. Or maybe I would have done that. Or I don't think I would have fell there. I would have fell over here. But anyway, thanks to Russell Todd. Go check out Friday 13th Part 2 and those movies that I just mentioned, as well as seeing everything he's done, and check him out on Instagram and see when he might be coming to a town near you to do a signing. I would definitely look forward to meeting him someday at one of these conventions. Without further ado, let's get into a couple clips I had previewed at the beginning of the episode. So first, let's play a clip from Vincent DeSanti. He was on the show a few months back. Definitely go back and check out that episode. He is the director, and he also plays Jason in the new fan film Never Hike Alone 2. It's not made for profit. It's a project where they had to raise money and fundraise for it, and I actually gave a little money to it, so my name will be in the end credits, which I'm excited to see. But the movie drops on Friday the 13th, which is today when I drop this episode. You can find it on YouTube. I'll have a link in the episode notes here. So here's Vincent talking about what makes Jason who he is and how they portray him for this fan film that comes out today. So here it is, flashback time. Vincent DeSanti from the Infinite Banter podcast talking about the new fan film that drops, Never Hike Alone 2, and how he portrays Jason for his movie Never Hike Alone 2, dropping on Friday the 13th. Flashback.
he's still somewhat human, but he's superhuman, and he can't even explain himself. He doesn't know that he's a revenant. He didn't get like a membership card that when he came back from the death that told him what he was. He just knows what his mission is, and he knows what he's being told to do through the spirit of his mother. But he's still sort of like the same kid that he was at the same time. He didn't forget who he was. So it was a cool, when you kind of really shave Jason down to those elements of what actually makes him. He's not just a hockey mask wielding killer that sees somebody and wants to kill them, that he is all of these things actually. It makes a much more complex character, which makes it a lot of fun, because then it makes it a sort of, once you start to get to understand him, the choices that you make seem to make a lot more sense versus sort of just willy-nilly going out there and swinging a machete around.
Hey man, it's Tommy McLoughlin. I'm the lead singer of The Sloss, and also I'm Tom McLoughlin, writer-director of Jason Lives Friday the 13th, Part 6. I'm here to tell my friend Mark of Infinite Banter Podcasts. I gotta tell you, man, you are the man. Love the show. And the rest of you guys, keep on listening, because the best is yet to come.
So here's another flashback clip from another Friday the 13th related guest that I had. So back when I first started doing this show, and I think I played clips from him before because his interview was so amazing, and I was just really into everything we were talking about, of course. Tommy McLoughlin, who came on to talk about how he directed Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. He's done a lot of other things as well. But since I'm doing this Friday the 13th episode, I definitely wanted to bring back something from him, because I know a lot of people are listening maybe for the first time because they're checking in for Russell Todd. There are a couple other episodes you might be interested in, and I've talked to a lot of Walking Dead actors as well. So anybody who's into the horror genre, I do try to do some episodes here and there that cater to that. So here's Tommy McLoughlin talking about Jason Lives, and basically when he was hired to do the movie, how he was allowed to have the freedom to make a horror movie that had little bits of comedy in it and kind of have his own take on Jason and the franchise. And I have always said it's one of my favorites of the series. It might be my actual favorite. I don't think it's the best movie, but I think it's my personal favorite. And I just like how he did that. It was Scream before Scream. There's a lot of playing to the audience, and the characters almost like knowing they're in a horror film. I kind of like that idea. Just put Jason, in the series as a whole kind of on its head a little bit. So here's a flashback from Tommy McLoughlin talking about the freedom to make this movie and what it took for him to try to put a little comedy into the Jason franchise. So here we go, flashback. Tommy McLoughlin here on the Friday the 13th episode of Infinite Banter.
Well, the most difficult thing was to, convince them that I could do this, because at that point, no one had sort of made a satire of the horror movies at the same time of making one. There'd been, examples and certain things that were more comedy than horror, but had horror elements to it. But I really wanted to still make, a monster movie, making Jason into an unstoppable, force with the lightning bolt and things, and yet have the characters have a kind of a sense of humor and irreverence about the whole thing. I've seen enough horror movies to know anybody wearing a mask is never friendly. I mean, things like that sort of, were in jokes to a horror audience. And as long as I didn't make fun of Jason, which I had no intention of, the producers were fine with it. And I was given a lot of creative freedom on that, which is what the other thing that was so great is they just trusted that, I knew what I was doing, and they wanted something unique with the series. Well, they always do. The one has to be somehow a little more special than the last one. So I was given, as I said, a lot of freedom to be able to just try some stuff, and also just trying to come up with kills that could be funny on one hand, like smashing that guy that, gets his arm torn off. We just talked about, into a tree that had a happy face on it. Right. So just trying to, put the jokes in there.
Hey y'all, it's Lou Temple, Axel from The Walking Dead, and you're listening to the Infinite Banter podcast. Keep listening. You follow me?
Time for you to leave, asshole.
That is Kirk Acevedo telling me it's time to go, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. Before I get out of here, I do want to give some props to Friday the 13th Part 2, and a big thanks to Russell Todd for coming on the show, of course. It's probably the best movie in the franchise. I don't think it's my favorite one, but it's probably the best one. I love Sackman Jason. He's got the one eye hole in I don't know if it's a pillowcase or potato sack. I don't know what the hell he's wearing, but my favorite scene in the whole series it's very, very fast. So if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. I know I've mentioned it on here before. Back at the Jason crib, Jason Manor, the shack made out of like aluminum siding and whatever the hell, with his mom's severed head in the bedroom. There's a scene where Amy Steele, the final girl in it, who plays Ginny, she's running in there thinking there's somebody who lives there that's going to help her, and there's a window behind her, and you just see Jason running like a linebacker getting ready to tackle a running back. I mean, he's just coming, like he's just relentless, and it scares the shit out of me every time I watch it because it's just the way he's coming. He's just ruthless. And I love that scene, and this is well after Russell Todd's appearance in the movie. But definitely go check it out. Happy Friday the 13th. Go watch a couple of movies. It's a great month for Halloween type films. I watched a lot of stuff this month so far, and I'm going to keep going, watching all these scary movies. I heard there's a new Exorcist movie that's out, so maybe I'll go check that out as well. But definitely big up to Russell Todd. Go check out him on Instagram, and he does a lot of cool posts on there, so follow him. See what he's up to. And big shout out to the guests I played flashback clips of. So Tommy McLoughlin, who does Jason 6. And of course, Vincent DeSanti. Go check out his new fan film that's just coming out today, Never Hike Alone 2. And definitely go check out Never Hike Alone 1 and Never Hike in the Snow and stuff like that. He's got a lot of cool projects. Go check him out. Go support him. You can find it all on YouTube, Womp Stomp Films. All right, that's it for me. Happy Friday the 13th. This is a lot of fun to do this episode. Once again, big thanks to Russell Todd. Had a blast having him on the show here. Follow the show on all platforms. Rate and review the show. Go on YouTube. Type in Infinite Banter for clips from past guests. Check out the Spotify playlist. Follow the show on all social media at Infinite Banter Podcast. Big thanks to Russell Todd. Go check out Womp Stomp Films, Never Hike Alone 2. And until I do another one of these, happy Friday the 13th. I'm out.
Hey, asshole, get off the road.
Being on the Infinite Banner with my man Mark has been a pleasure.